you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick Podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick Podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. The Eye Test with Pierre, McGuire, and Jimmy Murphy.
The Stanley Cup winning Colorado Avalanche. And after 22 years, Raymond
The sickest NHL podcast. Brought to you by TCS Customs and Logistics. Moving pieces, delivering peace of mind. It's gonna be sick.
And welcome to another edition of the Eye Test here in the Sick Podcast Network. He is Pierre McGuire. I am Jimmy Murphy. And Pierre, we are going to get right into our featured guest of the day because he's got to get to a dinner in Ottawa. So we welcome on our good friend, Florida Panthers analyst and former NHLer, Jeff Chychrun, joining us here on the Eye Test. Jeff, how are you, my friend?
Great, guys. Got home. Great to see you two. Looking well. Just got home for a few days this week. Visit my daughter, visit my dad, make sure everything's functioning at the cottage. It's all shut down. But we're doing great. Excited for this final stretch here in the NHL schedule.
You got a lot to be cheering for. You got your son's playing with Alexander Ovechkin in Washington, so you're watching the Gretzky goal hunt, and obviously your Florida Panthers. I don't know how you got all the time to do all this stuff, Jeff.
You're not kidding. Well, my handicap isn't getting any better here, that's for sure. But yeah, I'm doing the game here in Ottawa on Saturday. Interesting, I was listening to Paul Maurice today talking about the Panthers. And I don't know what they are. They're past 10, 3-5, and a couple overtime games or something. Nothing great. He reminded us that last year and the year before. I think he went into Montreal and Toronto lost both games a year ago and sort of turned around. I think maybe that was one of the nights Mo actually went a little crazy on the bench, actually. But they certainly were better in the neutral zone following that little episode the rest of the way. But, he keeps talking about the standard of play that they're looking at and how they know who they are and the identity of their game. And Pierre, you know this stuff much better than I do. I've never coached in the league, but just that consistency, playing as they will come round one of the playoffs. It's so important to him. And the other day he actually talked about, he wasn't concerned prior to the Montreal game, but they asked him sort of how they're playing, and he said, or how he wants them to play. He says, I hope we play a lot of really tight hockey games from here to the end. I thought that was really interesting.
I do too. I think it's great what you just relayed to us. Fantastic.
Jeff, I wonder in your assessment so far, how have Brad Marchand and Nico Sturm fit into the team so far?
Yeah, I think they're both interesting again today too. Mo's talking about sort of his discussion with Bill Zito prior to the trade deadline, and one of the things they really needed was update their penalty killing. And nobody really talks about Bergeron and Marchand in their Boston days as maybe two of the best penalty killers in the history of the game. So to get that in your franchise with everything else he brings, and you get an excited elite veteran coming in that locker room, they're pretty excited. And Sturm, of course, he fits in really well with that big body, good skating, and that penalty killing background as well.
I thought that was one of the subtle little pickups. I told Jimmy, getting Nico Sturm because of the fact you lost Kevin Stenlund in the offseason, right. How big Stenlund was last year, Chick. I thought that was a great addition by their management team. And they know Sturm really well because of his college background. And the guys that are supporting Billy, they're all college guys, basically. So they know, his sparks and roots. So I thought that was a great background. I got to ask you this. This was a tough team for a long time, Florida Panthers. They like to bully teams. Yeah. Do you see that bully part still kicking in?
Yeah, I think it will. I think once everybody's sort of back, you kind of have that look. I mean, obviously Stenlund, that great big body, right? But you got AJ Greer here as well, who can add to that. They'd certainly miss Aaron Ekblad's physicality back there right now. Matthew Tkachuk obviously stirring it up, but obviously Sam Bennett, to me, he's always been the guy that sort of dragged them into the fight with that sort of intimidating physical style play that he has. So I think it's still there. Pierre, you were in Pittsburgh in 91 and 92, how tough it is to repeat and then continue on the next year. I think they've just got a lot of miles in them, and I think they're trying to manage it as best they can. Correct me if I'm wrong, Pierre. I feel like when we made the trade, when I joined Tocchet and Samuelson and Kenny Reggett, I feel like that second year after winning the Cup, we were almost like a 500 hockey team at that point. We were, and that's sort of what this team is right now, right? And just trying to get in that playoff spot, but in a relaxed way, and playing the kind of hockey that they know will win in the playoffs. So I think it's got its challenges. I think there's a lot of things that the Florida Panthers do to be intimidating, and not necessarily in a physical way, but it's like we talk about knowing who they are, knowing that they can win, whether they're running up to score or being so comfortable in a 1-1 hockey game with 8 minutes left in the game, because that's sort of what has been their mantra since Paul Maurice has come in. So yeah, I guess there's a lot of ways to be intimidating, but I think some of the young studs like Luostarinen and Lundell, they got world-class experience now with that Four Nations, and they're really showing their value too. Lundell, he reminds you a lot of Barkov. I mean, obviously Barkov sets that bar way up here, but he plays awfully well down the middle of the ice. So they're deep in the middle, and yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting the next little while.
You talked about Ekblad not being there, and he'll eventually be back. I think after the second game of the playoffs, if I remember correctly.
That sounds right.
But Jeff, I got to ask you this, because you've been part of winning a Stanley Cup on more than one occasion. How much do they miss Brandon Montour? How much do they miss Oliver Ekman-Larsson?
Pierre, I'm glad you brought that up. I think those are two huge cogs, and I don't think it gets mentioned enough. Obviously, they brought in Seth Jones for a reason, that, high-end, right shot, mobile, puck-moving defenseman who can clear the front of the net. But I think those two guys in particular, Pierre, it's amazing how, my years when my son was in Arizona, Oliver was always mentioned among the Norris Trophy candidates, and he put up 20 goals a year or close to it almost annually. And towards the end of the year, those were the two guys. Montour was the number one power play guy, and then as we got to the playoffs, Oliver Ekman-Larsson actually stepped up and was running the number one unit throughout the playoffs. So I think that's key. I think that's the one thing they haven't really replaced. I think they're hoping with the committee they can manage it. Yeah, I think those two guys on so many levels. And I think Ekman-Larsson's defensive play, both those two guys, doesn't get enough credit either. So those are huge cogs to replace. It's amazing though how they keep on running, and you get new bodies. Nate Schmidt's done a great job. Uvis Balinskis has stepped up, and
what a pickup, Chick! Amazing how good he is, Jeff.
Yeah, really, Pierre.
Really
and,
amazing pickup.
Yeah. Again, and you mentioned their pro scouting job, how great they've done, and Nate Schmidt. I mean, real solid veteran guy, lots of personality. So it's tough when you only have whatever it is this year, $86 million or $89 million to spend. You got to plug in holes where you can.
Jimmy, you know what's amazing about Nate Schmidt? I'm glad Jeff brought him up. Nobody knows, like, Nate Schmidt was a great player at the University of Minnesota. He's never drafted.
Wow.
And George McPhee signed him with the Washington Capitals. And when George left to go to Vegas after he got replaced, one of the first guys he brought in was Nate Schmidt.
How about
it's
that?
unbelievable how that works.
Yeah. He's got that Viking look to him, doesn't he? He's very Paul Holmgren, Nick Bukestad look. Those Minnesotans.
He's got a great personality too, from what I've seen.
He's tremendous.
Very popular.
You bring up earlier, you're talking about Paul Maurice and what, talking to Bill Zito before the deadline and stuff. When they were here, right after that, they played in Boston, and I was there for the game day skate. And, Marchand said his goodbyes to the media there. But before that, Maurice was on, and I asked him. I said, what's been one of the biggest things you've learned about Bill Zito as a GM? And he's basically, I'm paraphrasing here. He says, if he wants something, he's going to go get it done. And I think the proof was the Matthew Tkachuk trade. Like, he came to me and he said, "What do you think of us getting him?" And I said, "How are you going to do that?" And then he did it. And so from that point on, he's like, I know that I can go to him and identify needs, and I'm pretty confident that he's going to find a way to get it to the team. What have you noticed about the relationship they've formed?
Yeah, it seems really solid. And I think if you talked to him, he didn't know him at all when Mo's phone rang, and I guess it was a Florida area code. I'm trying to think what mine is, 561 area code or 954. I don't know if Mo was heading to the cottage fishing. Hey, we don't know what our phone numbers are. They're all programmed in now.
I know, you don't even know.
Yeah. But I think their relationship is really great. And like you said, Bill's not afraid to make deals that are going to help the hockey club. You look at Claude Giroux and Ben Sherratt a few years ago, giving up first round picks for those guys. But it was a chance well worth taking. Obviously, we talked about Seth Jones coming in. They gave up a lot to bring in Seth in futures and obviously player with Spencer Knight and first round picks. But if he really believes it, he believes it. And I think there's sort of that mindset throughout the league. If you look at Vegas, they're not afraid to deal players. If you look at Tampa Bay, they're not afraid. They value, I think they almost value present day proven NHLers more than draft picks. And a lot of these picks these teams have, they're what, Pierre, like 25, 30, 32?
Yeah, 100%. We agree.
Those are projects, right? So, yeah, if you're going to help your hockey club compete and have a chance to win, why not?
Yeah.
So I got to ask you, as a father, your son Jakob's been phenomenal in his career. When he signed that contract, you had every single contract you got, you had to battle for.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying he didn't, but as a father, you see that, you're like, wow, this is amazing. It must have, what did it feel like?
Yeah, crazy. I mean, I remember when he signed his second deal, and it was a 6-year deal in Arizona. But this one, yeah, it's quite a feeling, Pierre. I'm really kind of speechless. My wife and I were so grateful, and I wish Nancy was on, because she'll get a lot more emotional and sort of give you the better parental feel, because just being so grateful that he's had to overcome a lot too. You know, I mean, he literally stepped in a hole. I remember one week I was watching Sidney Crosby and McKinnon running the hills in Nova Scotia. My son was literally doing the same thing out in Ottawa, outside the rink in Arnprior here after practice. Stepped in a hole and tore his meniscus. Yeah, exactly, Pierre. Yeah, Nick Smith Center. So he hasn't been lucky. Thank goodness the past few years have been really good. Yeah. And so he was finally rewarded, and he always felt that, you know, those things aside, and all the guys complain about the equipment, you get some skate issues or whatever, but all things being equal, he felt he would have really had a chance to dominate earlier in his career. So we're really grateful the way it's worked out. We're so, you know, you get to know Brian McClellan and Chris Patrick, what a staff in Washington. Mr. Leon's, it's funny. We didn't know what was happening. I heard Jakob talk about it the other day. If a deal was going to happen, or because it had been really quiet even up to the trade deadline. And looking back, I really appreciate they were just sort of not wanting to rock the boat or put pressure on anyone. All of a sudden, we were there, played Detroit last Tuesday night at home. And Jakob, after the game, comes home. He says, Mr. Leonsis came in the room. He introduced me to the governor of North Dakota, and he had my jersey on. And the boys were all over me because he's never come in with anything other than Ovi's jersey. And he says, we're going to get something done, Jakob. And we had no certainty. And literally it came together in the next few days. So we're feeling so blessed. We appreciate how they went about their business. And I'm happy to be a Caps parent. I take a lot of abuse from it from my friends in Pittsburgh and Washington and Philly, but we're real happy to be Caps parents.
Jimmy, I just want to, I know Jeff has to go, but I want the viewers and listeners to understand this. I had the honor to coach this man in 2 different cities, and he was as tough as any, and I coached a lot of tough guys. Chick could speak to that. He was as tough as any guy I ever had the privilege of coaching, and I never had a bad day with him, ever. Ever. And it was so much fun to be around you. And Jeff, I want to tell this quick story. You won't remember because you fought a lot. We were playing in Calgary, Jimmy, and they had a tough team. They had like Joel Otto, Ronnie Stern, Paul Krause. They had some tough cats on that team. We started the game, and I think, Chick, I told you before the game, you're going to start on the wing tonight. And
I think it's the only time it ever happened.
And he did, and he fought this guy, Paul Krause, who was a tough cat, and Chick handled him really well, and we eventually won the game. But we just wanted to send a little message.
I love it.
We were able to do that, and I always remember that.
Thanks, Pierre. Yeah, those fun times. It was a different game, but you know, it was man on man. They saw who we were starting, we saw who they were starting, and we went out and set the page. And I remember, Pierre, I remember after that one too. I remember Brian Trottier gave me the biggest hug after that.
Trotch.
Pierre
speaks
he appreciated it.
Yeah,
So,
no,
yeah,
because
There
we
you go.
knew they basically called us out, and we're
Big
like,
boys.
okay, well, we got some artillery too, and
Yeah,
we'll
yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Hey,
Good
when you
stuff.
start on the right wing instead of talking, we're ready to go.
Dick, thanks so much for joining us.
You
Enjoy
are
your time
awesome.
there in
Chip.
Ottawa.
Thank you.
Congratulations
grateful.
on this, son.
Thanks for having me on, guys. Best.
All
I
right.
love the music to start this thing too.
Oh,
Thanks.
yeah, it's going to stick in your head. Watch out.
Great
Have
to
a
see
good
you
one.
guys.
All right.
Jeff,
bye-bye.
I'll get in touch. Thank you.
Thanks, Pierre.
All right. He's a good one there, Pierre.
Oh, hey,
you-
Jimmy.
Yeah.
I don't know if they have. I'm sure it's on YouTube somewhere. This was kind of a unique kind of a night,
Okay.
and so, I just remember Scotty wasn't into that stuff. He didn't like, but they had kind of called us out a little bit that when they played in Pittsburgh, we were on the road, and so we just said, really, let's test them and start online on it. Go tell Chick he's playing up front. Okay. And he did his chores pretty well. I didn't have to tell him what to do. He knew what to do.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But as soon as he said, Chick, start on right wing tonight. What? Starting on right wing today. I get it.
And let me ask you, did you guys, I imagine, I think I know the answer to it. You didn't answer it all on the media, right? You just did it on the ice, right? That's
we didn't have to, like, it
that's
just,
the problem today.
we just went to, look,
Put it on
we had
the
a really good team, but we didn't want guys running Mario, and we didn't want guys running Ronnie. We didn't want guys running Murphy. We didn't want guys running Mullen. Like, we didn't want guys, another guy and he did his chores hard, Kevin Stevens.
Oh, yeah.
Like, guys didn't mess around with him. They didn't want, he's just too big and strong. You didn't want to mess around with him. And, we had guys like Chick, and we had guys like Dickey, Rick Tocchet, and Big Shell and Alfie. Like, we had some pretty tough guys. I mean, people don't talk about Phil Bourque enough. People don't talk about Troy Loney enough. These were tough men.
Yeah.
Really tough men.
I remember watching as a kid. Good stuff.
And then don't forget Jay Caulfield.
Yeah.
And Jay Bird watches our show. Jay, you know what I think. Like, I love you, Jay. He's a tough guy too.
I love it. I love it. One thing we talked about there, Pierre, he's talking about Seth Jones, and they've got him. He's been going with Forsling there.
Yeah.
We've both watched him from afar, but is there anything you've picked up different about him? Whether it's he's just got more energy or he's doing anything different on the ice there since he went to Florida?
More bounce in the step. I really like what Jeff just said.
That's right.
I think Jeff nailed that.
Yeah.
They're going to try to do it by committee. I don't think he's as good on the power play as Ekman Larson. He's definitely not as good as Montour. The one thing I think he does, though, and we saw a little of it on Sunday when they played Montreal, when he gets a one-time chance, he can rip it, Jimmy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like, he can rip the puck.
Yeah.
Now, is it always going to hit the net? No. But that's the one thing. I think if they'd spent – and Sylvain Lefebvre, by the way, and Chick knows about this, Sylvain Lefebvre does a really good job with their defensemen. Like this Balinskis, anybody in the league could have had him.
Yeah.
Anybody in the league. Nobody wanted him.
Mm-hmm.
They took him.
Yeah.
And he played, and I think that's a reflection on Sylvain Lefebvre. I remember we had Paul Stanton and we had Jimmy Pack. They weren't guys that a lot of people were – Gordy Roberts. People weren't counting on those guys to be part of a Stanley Cup winning defense. And I know the work that those guys put in to make themselves really good. Yeah. And we spent a lot of time with those guys. And I see what Sylvain Lefebvre's doing with Seth Jones.
Right.
And I think he's enhanced his ability to play, which is good.
I also was thinking from the Bill Zito point of view, from the GM point of view, and I wonder if you can tell me this. When a guy's kind of scouting, he's looking at different players to bring in at the deadline, and obviously skill is the biggest thing. And then you look at where is he going to fit in the team. But does the potential for a guy who, like Seth Jones, hasn't seen the playoffs for so long, right? So he's raring to go. There's that hunger there. There's that, like you said, he's revitalized. Mm-hmm. And then Brad, I know he's been in the playoffs every year, but he hasn't gone past the second round since 2019. And now he gets there to this team who's a Stanley Cup contender. A lot of people expect to at least make it to the conference final. I wonder if that factors in when GMs are scouting players, like they're going to bring this extra hunger that maybe we need. Maybe it's going to rub off on our guys.
Boy, you're smart. That was really well said. And I'm going to tell you, in the 1970s, when the Montreal Canadiens were winning all those Stanley Cups, that's what Sam Pollock used to do.
Right.
And he'd bring in an older guy that had been close to winning the cup but had not, or they'd bring in a younger guy who was good but was on a bad team. and it was like a reprieve from the governor to go play for the Montreal Canadiens.
Right.
So they would target guys based on whether they'd been close as an older player and they knew the clock was ticking, or a younger guy that was on a bad team, but they knew that the guy had talent, like Pierre LaRouche. Pierre LaRouche is one example of that. And there are millions more. Jimmy Roberts, who was an older guy that had been to the final in St. Louis and never won the cup.
Right.
And they bring him in and he comes to Montreal. He wore number 6 and he was playing forward. He was playing defense, but Scotty could trust him because he had him in St. Louis.
Yeah.
There's the Canadians were the kings of this.
Yep.
And I learned, all the nights I spent with Scotty on the road or in the rinks, I learned all these life lessons from him. And that was one of them that was really valuable, really valuable.
Yeah, because I was just thinking of it as we were talking. I'm like, these guys just won the cup. And I'm not saying by any means are they cocky or looking ahead or anything. But, there's times after you win, Pierre, and you won. And you did it again. You did it back to back. There's times where things can get a bit stale, or you maybe like he was just saying that they've kind of been 500 lately. And now you bring these guys in, and it's just that extra jump that I think the whole team needs. So I think it's a brilliant move by Zito.
The way you just described it, though, is perfect.
Yeah.
It's really important that you understand that what you said is so perfect for all these managers out there, people to understand, because it does matter. It matters a lot.
All right. Perfect. Well, this game tonight, Pierre, obviously the Canadiens beat them down there. They are yet to lose against the Florida Panthers this season, Pierre. If you're Marty St. Louis, what are you telling them heading into this? Because there's so much on the line, but how do you follow it up what you did Sunday?
Well, first of all, you want to dictate the terms early. You want to get the crowd behind you early, plant a seed of doubt for Florida, make sure that they know it's not going to be an easy night. You would know better than I, Jimmy. I don't think Bobrovsky's playing tonight. I think Vanacek's playing tonight.
You are
it's
correct.
Vanacek, okay. So he doesn't get to play a lot. And so you want to get after him. And the one thing I'd say, you want to elevate the puck on him. He drops real.
I was just going to say the same thing.
Get the puck up on him. But the biggest thing, too, is create a grinding game. They're clearly saving Bobrovsky for tomorrow because it's a huge game for the standings for them.
Yep.
If they win tonight, it gives them a legitimate chance to leapfrog over Tampa and obviously Toronto. But tonight, if you're Montreal, catch them early, put the boots to them, make them uncomfortable. Don't play nice. Don't let them bully you in Montreal. Pizetti's playing on the fourth line tonight. Joshua Roy is not playing. They don't have Arbor Jackeye playing. I'm telling you, you got to dictate. This is one of those where, like when we went into Calgary, you're on home ice now. You dictate the terms. You don't let them dictate the terms.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with that. And Pierre, I just saw it coming across the wire here. I don't know if you saw this. Kind of sad news. Former Leafs goalie Mark LaForest has passed away at 62.
Oh my gosh!
Now, do you remember playing against him or coaching against him?
Oh yeah, my gosh! Both in the NHL and the minors. His nickname was Trees.
Oh, there you go.
That was his nickname, LaForest. His nickname was Trees.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding you. Oh, I didn't know that. That's very sad.
That's sad.
That's very
I
sad.
didn't say how, but our thoughts, condolences out to his family and friends and former teammates. Looking around the league too, obviously huge night in terms of that wild card spot in the East. The Islanders are hosting the Lightning, so that's big as well for the Panthers. The Blue Jackets hosting the Predators. This is going to be an interesting night here, Pierre. And then the game closest to me, the Boston Bruins are playing the Washington Capitals, and I know we're a big fan of them. We've talked about him a lot here on this show. Ryan Leonard making his NHL debut. Pierre, I wonder if you can think back to any good stories of advice you gave any highly touted players when they were making their debut.
You made it here for a reason. Do what you did to get here.
Yep.
If you were a scorer, go score. If you were a checker, go check. If you were a tough guy, go be a tough guy.
Yeah.
Play what got you here. Think about what got you here and keep doing it. Just do it at a higher level. But the most important, and you go watch every interview I ever did at NBC on national TV or at TSN on national TV. I always said the same thing. Go have fun out there or have a blast out there. Yeah. I never wished anybody good luck.
Okay.
Why would you do that?
Yeah.
No, I'm going to wish you bad luck. Dumbest thing ever. I'm going to wish you, at the end of the year, no, bad luck. No. Go have fun.
You just won a Stanley Cup. How do you feel?
Yeah, that's the best one. You scored your first NHL goal. How did you feel? I felt terrible. It was brutal. It was no fun. It was terrible.
Anyhow, all right, let's get to, we got a tight one. Our producer Shane's going to be out right at the top of the hour, and I see the questions lining up. So let's get to our sponsors right now. TCS Customs and Logistics. Whoop, not our song, even though Chychrun liked it. We can play it again. That one's for Chick. There we go. I've had a lot of people actually, they say, that's a catchy song. And I wonder who sings it, Pierre. I don't even know.
Sometimes when I'm riding the bike and I'm going really deep on the bike and I'm like, I'm like, let's get through this fast.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, sometimes when I'm having trouble getting out of bed and like, I didn't sleep well, I'm like, there, I get it going. I get the Sick Podcast song going. Gets me right up into the day. All right. Unlock the full potential of your shipping operation with TCS Customs and Logistics. From around the corner to around the world, flatbeds to air freight, customs clearance to drawback consulting, TCS is a one-stop shop for all things transport, moving pieces and delivering a peace of mind. For no obligation customs or freight quote, contact sickpodcast@shiptcs.com. Again, that is sickpodcast@shiptcs.com. And of course, our wonderful sponsors, Betway, where you can still go all the way with Betway. Sign up with that QR code right now. They still got that wonderful offer going. You can bet up to $200, or you can bet, and if you lose, you still get up to $200 credit on your first bet. There is only available for new customers. You can sign up, as I said, with the QR code right in front of you if you're watching, or go to the details section in the website and sign up there. You must be 18 plus. It is not available in Ontario. Terms and conditions apply. And always, please bet responsibly. Let's go to my picks of the day. What do we got?
It's time for Sick Picks. Brought to you by Betway.
All right. I'm going to go right now, right to that game that we've been talking about, Montreal and Florida at the Bell Center. I'm feeling like this game could go either way. I honestly am leaning a little towards an overtime, but I'm going to stay away from the score and the side there. I'm liking both teams to score in the first period. You can get that right now at plus 150 value. So that means simple as that. Both teams got to get a goal. It doesn't matter how many you get. It could be 1-1, you win. So that's what I like in that game right there. And then I'm going to go west with LA and the Winnipeg Jets playing there. Look, two great goaltenders going at it. Two teams that play great defensive systems. I'm all over that under 5.5 right there. I think this is going to be a stingy game. You can get that at minus 110 right now. And there's a ton of games out there, but I didn't want to go too crazy. We'll keep it simple. Those are my two picks of the day right now. And before we get to the Q&A, I want to tell us we're getting close and I'm leaving tomorrow morning. Can't wait to get on the road and head north to Montreal, because on Thursday afternoon at 4:00, but we'll be there by 2. So come by early and say hello to us for sure. We will be at McLean's Public House once again. So psyched to be back there. 1420 Peel Street in downtown Montreal. Remember, it is not the original McLean's on Lower Peel. We're on Upper Peel. So just go up from the original McLean's over St. Catharines, about 3 doors up on your left there. You'll see the sign, McLean's Public House, 1420 Peel Street, 4 p.m. We'll tee you up for the Boston Bruins and the Montreal Canadiens. Should be a good one. That rivalry is always fun, especially when a team has something to play for like the Montreal Canadiens. And hey, the Bruins, as we've been saying all week, are playing for pride there. Can't wait to see everybody up there. Can't wait to see Stu. We're really appreciative of him having us again and to see that wonderful staff at McLean's Public House. All right, let's get to our Q&A. What do we got? Franco, question. We speak a lot about Crosby, but without naming names, is there another elite 3-time cup-winning center on his team? Does he stay for the ride in Pittsburgh or move, in your opinion?
Evgeny Malkin is not playing right now for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Ricard Raquel's playing in his place. I don't know if Gino really wants to move. I don't know the answer to that. I think he's a lot like Sid. He's extremely loyal. I think he's proud to be a lifetime Pittsburgh Penguin guy. So I don't know whether they would move him or not. I just don't know.
All right. And I'm kind of with Pierre. I don't see it happening right now. As of now. Think anything can change, but as of now, I don't see it. All right. Next question. Randy Workman. I asked you at the beginning of who should win the Norris. Have you changed your mind? Nope.
I still, who do you think?
I got Rowensky.
Do you? Well, I always thought Werenski was in there. I know Cale Makar got hurt last night, so it's tough. But I've been pretty bullish on Zach for a while. I thought Makar would win. I did. I thought Makar would win. But with the injury, if Werenski stays healthy and if Columbus ever made the playoffs, I don't know how he doesn't win the Norris this year. I don't know. I mean, he could, but I still think Makar's the best defenseman in the league.
You know why I like him, Pierre? Just because, and we've had this conversation before where we both agree there needs to be 2 defensive awards.
Yeah, well, you got it for the forwards. Why do they do it for the forwards? Like the Selke trophy's for the best defensive forward. It's not for the best forward getting points.
Yep.
And they got the Rocket Richard for the best goal scorer. And usually the Art Ross, unless Bobby Orr's making a comeback, the Art Ross is for the most points.
Right.
So, like, what are we doing? Why can't there be a defensive defenseman award?
Totally agree. But until they do, I look at Werenski out of Makar, Hughes, and him as the most well-rounded. And it's no knock on Makar and Hughes. I just think defensively he's played better than both of them. So
this year I would agree. This year I agree. I agree with that this year.
Yeah.
I think our show was the first one that pointed out Zach Werenski, and that was back in July.
Oh yeah. Yep.
So
and we heard what Don Waddell said last week about him. So he's meant a lot to that team. All right, next question. Alex Ivanowski, are you buying anything into the Flyers and Sabres playing better and scoring all these goals? Is there anything to get fans' hopes up for 25-26? Or is it just a typical end of the year stat padding? Alex, it's so funny. I was having this conversation with somebody today. What is it with the Sabres that they suddenly wake up once they're basically out of it? It's like 3 years straight this has happened. It must be so frustrating for the coaching staff and for the management. But yeah, I know what you're saying. I don't know. I don't know how to explain that phenomenon there with them.
Fool's gold.
Mm-hmm. Well, they just put pressure on them.
They just keep, no pressure, and the other teams are like, okay,
cares.
We'll just play some river hockey with you, and we'll score.
Best. Yep, that's what happened. All right, next question. Steve Lash, Pierre, and Jimmy, you previously said that Jacob Fowler should go straight to Laval. How would it work with a 3-goalie rotation between Primo and Hughes? Will he get enough playing time? Pierre, I'll let you take this.
Oh, it'd be fine. And I have nothing against Hughes, but he'll be the odd man out. That's okay. That's just how it works. Yeah. So this is my question to the question. So if you put him in Montreal, Steve Lash, what are you going to do with the 3-goalie system in Montreal with Dobish and with Montembeault and Fowler? What do you do then?
Yeah. So
there's really no easy answer in the NHL, but I can tell you right now, there's an easy one in the American League.
Huh. There's it's we're saying this now. Now, you know what? No, I'm not going to.
Well, Trey Augustine. So just so everybody knows, to be fair, I'm surprised by this, and it happened this morning. Trey Augustine's going back to Michigan State, and I thought there was no way Detroit wouldn't sign him, and I bet you they did try to sign him, but he's going back. He's going back.
You know what? There's some things going on right now on Twitter, but given what day it is, April 1st.
What are you hearing? Just
well, Cam Robinson of Elite Prospects, who, Pierre, I know you might not know who he is, but I've been following him this year. He's actually nailed a lot of things. He's done a pretty good job for them. He is reporting as of now, and this was tweeted 8 minutes ago, nothing official here, but there is decent smoke out there that Fowler is leaning towards returning to BC.
Well, I'd be surprised, but if that were true, it's because, they probably have told him there's a good chance you're going to play in the American League next year.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll go from there.
And so the kid says, well, then I'd rather stay. All right.
Why wouldn't you stay? So here's the one. This is for everybody out there that's saying, well, what about the contract? If he goes back to BC, I'm going to say right now, in NIL money, he's going to make 6 figures in NIL money if he goes back. So, what's the difference between doing 6 figures in the American League or doing 6 figures in Boston?
Mm-hmm.
Probably make out better because you're not paying Quebec taxes.
No, that's a great point.
So, I mean, if that were the case, now I will say this. Boston College has really been good his 2 years there, and he's a big reason why. But if you look at the last 2 years, the defections, Will Smith is gone from there. You got Perreault gone from there.
Ryan Leonard.
You got Ryan Leonard gone from there. Rushik on defense is going to be gone from there. You start doing the math. You can bring in all the young guys you want. You know, Jimmy, we've talked about it, and I've showed you.
Yeah.
You're not winning with the young kids.
No, you look at, and then you look around that conference, how many other teams are getting better and not,
This is for, if you're interested in seeing crazy stuff happen, everybody talks about the draft and free agency. You want to see some crazy stuff happen? Pay attention to the portal the next 2 weeks. Pay attention to what happens with Hockey East and the portal in the next 2 weeks.
It's insane right now.
I think people will be mortified.
Yeah.
Last year was crazy.
This is worse.
This will be way worse.
Yep.
Way worse.
And then you got to factor in the CHL thing as well.
That's why I'm telling you, this is, people have no clue what's coming. This is a different part of this game that we've never seen before.
Oh, yeah. I saw our good friend Mike McMahon, who's tapped into college hockey, Pierre, and he was on Twitter, and he's saying, I don't think I'm really getting a break this summer. He said, I'm going to be working in August.
Providence just lost Conley. He's a freshman, drafted last summer by Vegas. They thought he was staying. When the season started, they didn't think he was leaving after 1 year.
Nope.
And that's just one example. Anyways.
All right. Well, that's just something to keep in mind there as we go on. All right. Next question. Bill Van Vagel, how do you handicap the Calder with Hudson, Wolf, Celebrini, and Mishkov? Can you remember a year where there were this many who could win? Pierre might be able to. I can't.
Last year. What about last year?
I guess. Yeah, that's a good point.
Last year, there were a bunch of them that could have won. No, I'd be surprised if Hudson didn't win, but who knows? Wolf's had an amazing year. Celebrini's had a good year. Celebrini's injury at the beginning hurt him. Wolf's been very good.
Yep.
But how do you look? Like, let's just say Hudson goes past Nicky Lidstrom 60 points, which he's going to do unless he gets hurt. How does he not get it? How does he not be Rookie of the Year? Even if he doesn't, how does he not?
Yeah. I'm with you on that. All right, next question. Ethan Russell, how much of an impact boost could Snuggerud have on the Blues?
So here's what I think. I don't know if it'll happen right away. I could see a line with Jake Neighbors, Robert Thomas, and Jimmy Snuggerud. And then they'd move Bolduc down, and he would play with Sundqvist and with Matthew Joseph. And then they'd have a line with Holloway, Shen, and Kyrou. You have that, and if Snuggerud scores away, I think he'll score. His shot's elite, Jimmy. We talked about it. I think it changes the dynamic for St. Louis big time. St. Louis is going to be – we talked about what day was it, Jimmy? Today's Tuesday or Wednesday. What day did we talk about where we said you don't want to play St. Louis in the first round?
Oh, we've been talking about it all last week, and then we had Andy.
You just don't want to want to do that.
Pierre, I'll let you know, too, today at the skate in advance of their game against the Red Wings, they had Zach Bolduc on the left wing, Oscar Sundqvist in the middle, and they had Snuggerud on the right, on the third line.
So there you go. So last week when they played Montreal, it was Jake Neighbors, Robert Thomas, and Zach Bolduc was the line. So that they've taken a guy that would play on their first line. They've bopped him back to play in the third line, and he's playing with Sundqvist and Snuggerud. So they're getting Snuggerud up to speed, and eventually he will move up. And he will play with Thomas and Neighbors. That's what will happen.
And you should see how balanced they are that they can do that, Pierre.
Hey, listen. If Binnington plays like he's been playing, and this defense can hold up health-wise, they're not overly, and they, obviously the Parayko injury is a big injury for them. But if that defense holds up, Jimmy, they could be problems. They could be a big problem in the West.
Yeah, for sure. All right, next question. Juice _031017. Can the Blues give the Jets a run for their money if they play each other in the first round? Juice, Pierre and I have been saying that for a bit now.
Yeah.
I don't want to be the Winnipeg Jets right now. I really don't, especially with all the heartache they've had in the playoffs in previous years. This is not what they needed. They better be praying for Minnesota.
I hate to say this because we got a lot of friends in Vegas, you and I, like with the team there. What happens if they play Vegas? I'm not sure that's a real fun matchup for Vegas either.
No.
I just you got to hope that these guys move up and get out of the wild card.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting. On that note, too, I'm thinking here, and you want to go to Betway too. I would throw some futures on the St. Louis Blues. Just $5 might get you a lot at this point, and it won't be there soon because they'll catch on. So do it now. All right, next question. P. Cormier, guys, in the West, then East, which team on each side would you absolutely hate to play in round one? I'm positive that a few of the top contenders are looking over their shoulders. Well, we just established the Blues in the West for sure. In the East, man, that's a good question. Like
I would not want to play Tampa in the first round. I'm sorry.
Okay, so we're not. See, when he said that, I was thinking
I would not want to play Tampa. Tampa lost in 5 games last year to Florida in the first round. If they play the way they've been playing, they're playoff ready. The acquisition, getting Yanni Gourde was huge. Mm-hmm. Getting Bjorkstrand was big. Obviously, bringing McDonough back was massive. For Ryan McDonough's been great for them. I wouldn't want to play them. And Vasilevsky, Jimmy, how long have we talked about Vasilevsky? His game is back, man. I wouldn't want to play them.
So I'm with you, Pierre. I guess for some reason, when I saw that question, my brain automatically went to what team at the that's just getting in the wild card. Yeah. So I'm with you on Tampa, but if it's a wild card team and Montreal makes it,
well, I wouldn't want to play Montreal, but
I want to play them.
But I'd say this to be fair: if you're in the 2-3 hole and you got to play Tampa, if they don't jump up to 1, I don't. Yeah. I wouldn't want that. Even if you got through it, let's just say you were Toronto and you got through it, you'd have nothing left for the next round.
Yeah, exactly.
You get massacred.
All right, next question. Energize. Pierre, the funniest moment is when you asked Phil Kessel, how's your breath? And he responded with, not good, eh? Please relive that moment with us.
First of all, Phil Kessel's one of the classiest guys ever. He didn't take it personal. I misspoke. I meant to say, how's your wind? But you're down there because he had a long shift, real long shift near the end of the game.
Yep.
And rather than said, how's your breath, meaning how your breathing is. And I should have said breathing, but I said breath. I cut myself short. So I put Phil in a really tough spot. And I've always felt bad about that. He smiled and laughed, and his answer was so appropriate. So just to show you what kind of a guy he is, I said the next day I knew they were having practice in Tampa. Mm-hmm. So I went to the rink really early. And I went down to the dressing room and I was allowed in, and all the guys were in there, and there was 2 huge or 3 huge crates of gum in Phil's locker room stall. And he was laughing. He says, here, Pierre, I have a couple sticks of gum. And I said, I need it more than you. I'll always remember how genuine he was and what a polite guy he was when he handled that. And his answer was letter perfect, just phenomenal. That's awesome. Really good. And that was on me, not on him. And I should have said, how's your breathing instead, or how's your wind? I said, how's your breath? And I cut the ing off the breath. And that's on me, not on anybody else.
Well, he took it good. That's awesome. All right, next question. Ethan Russell, how many of the projected top 10 players in the draft are NHL ready? Is it important for Boston to pick someone who is NHL ready? Love the show, guys. Best pod. I've learned a lot as a coach and a hockey nerd. Thanks, Ethan.
Ethan, first of all, that UMass stuff's kicking in for you. So you and Jimmy, I give a little respect to you UMass guys. Schaefer, I think, will be ready to play. I don't think Misa will be ready to play. I don't think Hagens will be ready to play. I'd be surprised after Schaefer. But I think based on his injury this year, Schaefer might go back anyways. I'd want him to play another World Junior, like all the way through.
Yep.
So I don't know how many this year. We've talked about it, and look, there are a lot of good players.
Yep.
It's just going to take some time. It's not like they're finished products.
I'm going to have Shane cut this part right there and play it for all my Bruins fans friends who don't believe me that this is not going to be a 1-year retool for the Boston Bruins. It's going to take time, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm just trying to be realistic with you so you're not let down next year and you're not like, what happened? Listen to what Pierre just said there.
No, it's okay. Look, it's going to take time. Like the Rangers, everybody anointed the Rangers when they wrote that letter to their season ticket holders. And you know when it started to fall apart? when they fired John Davidson and Jeff Gordon because they weren't happy with the response from the Rangers against the Washington Capitals and Tommy Wilson.
Yep.
And I know they went to the Eastern Conference Final, but tell me when they got to the Stanley Cup Final.
Yeah.
Tell me when they did.
And who built those lineups?
But Gordon and Davidson did a really good job there, and they never got – I'm just telling you, the whole thing is messed up. But look at the only time rebuilds really don't work is when owners pull the plug halfway through.
Bingo.
Just telling you.
Just remember that. All right, next question. Franco, question: Do cap projects numbers make more sense with the rumored TV deal doubling the previous? Oh yeah, that's right. That big deal last night, Pierre, with Rogers. Do you think the projections are more on target now, Pierre, with that deal?
Yeah, I do. That was what they had in their back pocket.
That's what they knew. And
that's why they knew something they weren't putting out there. Not even the insiders knew.
No.
And not even the insiders knew that.
Who hinted to it right here in the eye test. We'll go find the tape. I'll see if I can find it. He hinted to it, Pierre, is Marty Walsh, the executive director. He didn't flat out say it, but he said, we're confident about the new TV deal.
Yeah.
And so I heard that.
And that's on the Canadian side. Let's see what happens on the U.S. side going forward. But yeah, they had that in their back pocket and they knew it. So good for them. Yeah. It's great for the players, and it's great for the league. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's great for the TV network, but we'll see.
It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
All right, next question. Bill Van Vagel, Pierre, how many goalies did you coach who were satisfied being number twos? Do many become resigned to their lot in life, or do most still want to be a number one?
I never coached the goalie. The goalies played for us. We had goalie coaches. I know nothing about the position. I never tried to.
Their own little planet.
There's one, I won't tell you who the goalie was, that I really liked a lot. Really tough guy. And he never wanted to be a backup, and he was tough as nails. And like, if you had said to him, I'm giving you the night off, he would get mad at you in your office. You know what I mean? Yeah. So they're different breed for sure. I remember one goalie, we always had roommates on the road, and nobody wanted to be this guy's roommate. So he got his own room all the time. I think he did it on purpose just to drive guys nuts so he could get his own room. But yeah, no, it's different. Goalies are different. That's okay. Yeah. Their position's amazingly important, obviously.
I would think, Pierre, there's not any that really get resigned to it. They may be forced to accept the reality of it, but they always want to get to that next level.
You know, I had a guy
last in the league if you don't.
Yeah, the first career I ever had as a head coach, Jeff Reese was the goalie of record. And Jeff played great. We won in overtime. He outdueled Van Beesbrook down in Florida in the old Miami Arena. And I believe it was Robert Cron that scored the overtime winning goal for us and for my team. And Reeser is one of my buddies. Like, I think the world of Jeff. He's a really good goalie coach now, really good. And I think he's one of those guys that knew he wasn't going to be a number one, but whenever he had a chance to be the number one, he was like, I'm taking it and running with it as long as they'll let me have it.
Yeah.
But then when he got put back to where he probably belonged on the depth chart, he didn't cause problems at all. He never caused a problem.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's the guys that when you give them a little taste and then all of a sudden they want more and they don't get it and they get mad, that's when you got a bit of an issue. You got to kind of tamp it down a little bit. Let's put it that way.
All right, next question. John Flagel, are blackouts still going to be a thing? It's not the way to grow the game. John, 100% agree.
Oh, John, way to go, John. Yeah. We agree. Don't know, but oh man, John, you're so right on.
I don't know on the league side, but I did have that conversation with Marty Walsh on here and on the eye test and in print, and he did say that was one of his main focuses was to figure out this regional stuff.
Especially down in the American markets.
Yes. It's
my goodness gracious. You know how much I travel, and I got all the things. I got ESPN Plus in the States. I got Sportsnet Plus in Canada. I got Flow TV. Like, I got all the things. I don't know what my bill is. My wife, thank God my wife pays for our cable bill.
I met somebody, Pierre, and I'll just tell you quickly, when we were in Lake Placid, I met somebody at the Lake Placid Brewery. We were just talking about hockey, and he's a Canadiens fan.
Yeah.
And he was telling me it's crazy. He said, if you're a Canadiens fan and a Sabres fan and you live there, you're getting blacked out for each one. Like they
Really?
blacked out both markets. So like Buffalo can't see their games, and Montreal fans can't see their games sometimes. He said it's ridiculous.
So I can't speak to that, but I'll take you at your word. But all I'll tell you is I've been in some pretty good hockey markets in the States over the last 14, 15 months, whatever. And I've been blacked out, and I buy the packages.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, so I don't understand
They
it.
got to figure that out.
They'll have to figure it out.
All right, next question. Ethan Russell, thoughts on how Lysell has played?
I leave that to Jimmy.
Ethan, I'm going to just make it short and sweet because we're running on time here, but I will say the biggest thing I have with him is he's still not going to the net. Like he's too perimeter. That's the biggest thing I have with him. He's got to learn to go to the net. Okay. All right, next question. Bill Van Vagel, is this the point in the year where coaches on playoff-bound teams stop experimenting with their lineup and focus on roster lineups, or they give guys a rest?
A little bit of both, Bill. Great question, by the way.
Great
really
question.
Good.
Yep.
So if you got older guys that maybe are a little nicked up, you give them, a little time off. If you got some young guys that are itching to get like a Ryan Leonard coming in, you're going to get him playing a lot so he can get acclimatized real quick. So you kind of have to be an expert on your lineup. You got to be an expert on your team. But a lot of the older guys will get some time off if you've clinched a spot and you're comfortable with where you are in the standings. Yeah, that's a great question. Really good.
Sure. All right, next question. Randy Workman, Jimmy and Pierre, do you think Kippersoft, the former Flames, won the Conn Smythe, even though they didn't win the Cup in 04?
He was unbelievable that year. I think Brad Richards won that year, if I remember correctly. Kipper was amazing. I worked every game in that series. He was phenomenal. It reminded me of J.S. Giguère.
I was just thinking of him too,
It
Pierre.
reminded me of J.S. Giguère when he won it as a losing goalie. But, yeah, I don't want to diminish what Brad Richards did. Brad Richards was amazing that playoff. So I'm going to say I wish they could have split it in half, but I'm glad for Brad and for the people in Tampa. That really put hockey on the map in Tampa too. It really did. That made a big difference when they won the Cup in 04. Really did.
So then we had the nuclear winter. But all right, next question. Bill Van Vagel. Habs have a ton of players projected to be line 3 type players. Beck, Kapanen, Farrell, Jack-Eye, Tuck. How will this all shake out?
I don't see Farrell being one of those. Farrell's got to play in your top 6. Jack-Eye and Tuck can. Beck, I think, going to probably have to play a little bit up in the lineup too, but he can check. So he's just going to have to get bigger and stronger. I don't think it's a problem, though, for Montreal. I don't think it is, because when you look at it, the way it's all sorting itself out, I think they'll be in good shape. They'll be in good shape.
All right, next question. Pete Cormier, Pierre, how can a rookie playing defense and to boot on his wrong side be that dominant? How can Hudson not be the top Calder contender? Yeah, that's right, too. That's something people forget to talk about, that he's playing on his offside.
Well, I've been talking about Lane Hudson for probably 3 or 4 years, so I'm not surprised that people are, blown away by his ability, because his abilities are amazing.
Yeah.
And until you've seen him a lot, all of a sudden you're like, where did this guy come from? He's really good. I like I said to Jimmy before, Mr. Cormier, I'd be surprised if he didn't win, but I mean, I don't have a vote anymore. I used to have a vote. I don't have a vote anymore. So I don't even know who's on the committee anymore. Couldn't tell you.
All right. Next question. Double Chief. Pierre, what actually happened with Matvei Michkov? If the 2023 draft happened today, he'd easily go right after Bedard.
Nothing happened to him. It was people were afraid at the time with what was going on in Russia.
Yeah.
And, he was a guy that was moved. So that was another thing, too, people were a little worried about. But clearly he's an amazing talent. I went on, just to be fair, just so everybody knows, I was supposed to go to Russia to see Kuzmenko play and Mishkov play, and I couldn't get into the country.
That happened, yeah.
Couldn't get in. So I don't know. I think they're both really talented kids. Kuzmenko's doing pretty well in LA right now. Mishkov's good, though. He's really good, obviously. So I don't know.
See Kuzmenko on tic-tac-toe play the other night?
Oh, yeah. So.
That was beautiful. Well, that's it for today. That's our Q&A. We appreciate you giving us all those questions and always watching and listening. We appreciate your support. And thanks to good Jeff Chychrun joining us here on the eye test. And thanks to our producer, Shane, up in Montreal. And remember, a reminder, on Thursday, about 48, less than 48 hours away, we will be at McLean's Public House, 1420 Peel Street, downtown Montreal, before the Bruins-Habs game from 4 to 5 p.m. Come on by. Have a great time. Wear your Habs stuff, wear your Bruins stuff, and say hello to Pierre and I. We can't wait to meet you in person if you're around. And thanks to Stu and his staff, we can't wait to see you as well. So again, 4 to 5 p.m., McLean's Public House on Thursday, 1420 Peel Street. Pierre, you enjoy all the hockey tonight, my friend. I'll be in touch with you, and I'm sure I will talk to you a lot on the way up tomorrow.
Working with Tony Marinaro and Max Lapierre tonight on the post-game show for the Montreal Canadiens.
Good. And what's the weather looking like that I'm driving up into?
Spectacular right now.
Beautiful.
If I was a little bit younger and didn't have any work to do, I'd go take a couple laps at the ski mountain.
There you go. All
It's
right,
beautiful.
my friend. Well, enjoy the hockey, everyone, and we will talk to you tomorrow here on the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Eye Test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.